Yeah, so greetings again. Thank you very much to our consciousness class. Yeah, this is almost the second month after 1 year. During the second phase of this class, we finished 1 year. We actually marked 1 year something back in May. That's when we started the second phase of this reading. Now we are almost 2 months, 1 year, 2 months in this class. And as you can see, we haven't moved that far in terms of our reading the page because we are not interested to cover books and reading in terms of just reading storybooks. This is a philosophy, and some of us who have been here for some time can tell, even to form thinking around some of the statements or sentiments here becomes very hard. So it have to take a lot of time to understand and critically share our thinking because we really want to build our consciousness by reading and going through this. So some people also still think that this is a reading club. We are not a reading club, actually. We are a philosophical class, and philosophy is not just reading. It takes you to the higher level of understanding, and that's what we're trying to do here. So every day as a class we meet, we share our thinking, we help build our thinking, and we help also look at these things that are happening in Africa and across the globe in a philosophical angle, so that our response and our reactions cannot just be normal reaction, but a reaction guided by philosophy and ideology. And in that way, we can be armed with the tool. As I think it's Sankara who said that a leader without ideology is just like what? He said something like that about a police or soldier with a gun, something like that. So we are here. We know that the struggle for liberation, unification, and development of Africa is a war, is a struggle. And it will depend on how strong we are solidified and how strong our philosophical and ideological foundation is in order to win this war. We know many people have tried and struggled and still pushing on to unify Africa. But the basis that sometimes lack is what is their ideological guiding principle? What is their philosophy that becomes like their map and their roadmap? How deep or how clearly do they understand it? And how do they work with its principles? And that's what has been missing. So most of us have been rushing towards liberating Africa, uniting Africa, developing Africa. But on what basis do we understand it? On a materialist basis or an idealist basis? What is our standpoint? So this is where we meet and try to understand Nkrumah's standpoint. Some people have now been making comments that consciousness is like trying to respect, idolize, or worship, or whatever Nkrumah. But the context that are written here, if you've been following our classes, are things that are relevant to date. This is not an historical book of the history of Napoleon Bonaparte or the history of the missionary. These are real contexts that can be applicable to Africa today. Just that maybe we've not taken much time to be attentive to this. So these actually are the writings of Kwame Nkrumah. He's the author of this book, and he took it as a philosophy and ideology to decolonize Africa. So thank you once again, comrades from Yenas. We've been going on with our readings. This is chapter 2, which is philosophy and society. We finished chapter 1, which was philosophy in retrospect. And here we've been looking at various aspects of Thales, idealism. We've been looking at the Greek society and how the context is and how Thales arrived at picking water as a basic philosophical or materialist standpoint or an example in regards to this, how the priest played a role in the society. Just recently, in our last class, we looked at the rule of thumb and the general rule. So this is a continuation of that. So thank you very much, comrades, who are with us here, and those who will be watching us, feel most welcome. Feel free to share your comments on our YouTube channel, and go to our YouTube channel. We have so many videos, 122. Actually, I was uploading 3 today. So we have 122 videos for the last 1 year of all our recording of our previous classes. If you don't find time to join us virtually in our Zoom, find time to go to our Zoom channel and watch and learn and share your comments. So thank you very much. To all who are here, Brother Carrington, Sister Ida, Brother Joseph, Sister Nancy, feel most welcome. It's a pleasure to have you once again. Let's keep moving. So, Brother Carrington, if you permit me,
Yes.
I'll ask you to read for us the 2 paragraphs highlighted, then we can share our thinking together.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Pigeon. How are you, everyone, once again? I hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Thales' successor, Anaximander, reasoned, however, that the unity of nature could not by itself guarantee equality and impartiality. Indeed, Thales himself was bourgeois in his actual political life. In Anaximander's thought, a need was felt for an active social principle which would illuminate and sanction social structure. This he called the principle of justice, a groundwork principle which in Anaximander's system regulated both social organization and the metaphysical generation of things. In his philosophy, he conceived a stock of neutral material which nothing was differentiated, a boundless, featureless, eternal expanse whose restlessness separated out the things of this world. These things abide in the world for a time, measured out according to principles of justice. At the end of their time, they give way to other things and flow back whence they came, back into the boundless neutral stock. So whereas at first blush, Anaximander seems to have diverged widely from Thales, his master and friend, he in fact only tried to secure similar social objectives by means of conceptual instruments not too different from those of Thales. The early Greek philosophers had a social moral preoccupation which they expressed in terms of metaphysics. It was this social moral preoccupation which made them continual sufferers of political persecution.
Thank you, Brother Carrington. There's a lot there to to pack or unpack, and actually I decided to group these paragraphs because they are one thing, so that the next paragraph in Nkrumah now come in with his own thinking. Brother Carrington, you having read this, I don't know if you need time to look at it or whether you can be able to analyze it first from your thinking, then we also have other people to share their thinking. What do you think?
Yes, I think I will try. Yeah, and let's see where it goes here. Okay. From my understanding.
Brother
Sorry?
Joseph, what a bit.
Yeah,
Brother
before you
Joseph.
go on, before you go on, I think we omitted something, and that is the reading of the previous paragraph so that we could connect. Because bear in mind, some of us don't always have the time to read and that kind of thing, and the only time we get the time, which is not the best, is when we come here. So just to reconnect us with what will happen last week. Yeah.
Okay, let me read the previous paragraph, and then Brother Carrington will explain. We'll start sharing his thinking in this paragraph, and then other members will also share to come along to share your thinking. So keep in mind the paragraph you're reading. This is where we want you to share your thinking, the one highlighted in yellow. But as per request of Brother Joseph, permit me to reconnect the previous paragraph.
And then could we reread this paragraph as well? Because though there doesn't seem to be much, there is something, I think. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
The previous paragraph is that paragraph above, which says that it was this idea of unity of nature as well as that of basic equality and justice, which required that Thales should generalize those rules of thumb picked up in the marshes of the Nile Delta. Rule of thumb allows for a certain measure of arbitrariness and partialities in application. The rules which the Egyptians Apedonans used in marking out farms were bound to lead to injustices. for they were measured with knotted pieces of cord. Thales' egalitarian perception, necessary for a mercantile economy, led him to seek general forms of rules. When rules become general, they guarantee an objective impartiality. And impartiality is the outward mark of egalitarianism. Brother Carrington, can you read your paragraph slowly again as you share your thinking?
Yes, thank you, Brother Pigeon. Thales' successor, Anaximander, reasoned, however, that the unity of nature...
Go slow a bit, go slow a bit.
Okay. Thales' successor, Anaximander, reasoned, however, that the unity of nature could not by itself guarantee equality and impartiality. Indeed, Thales himself was a bourgeois in his actual political life. In Anaximander's thought, a need was felt for an active social principle which would illuminate and sanction social structure. This he called the principle of justice, a groundwork principle in which Anaximander's system regulated both social organization and the metaphysical generation of things. In his philosophy, he conceived a stock of neutral material in which nothing was differentiated, a boundless, featureless, eternal expanse whose restlessness separated out the things of this world. These things abide in the world for a time, measured according to the principles of justice. At the end of their time, they give way to other things and flow back whence they came, back into the boundless neutral stock. So whereas at first blush, Anaximander seems to have diverged widely from Thales, his master and friend, he in fact only tried to secure similar social objectives by means of conceptual instruments not too different from those of Thales. The early Greek philosophers had a social moral preoccupation, which they expressed in terms of metaphysics. It was this social moral preoccupation which made them continual sufferers of political persecution.
Thank you, Brother Carrington. I think, as usual, we might maybe want to explain some of the few things that, if anybody think that need explanation before we start sharing our thinking. Which, for this paragraph, I don't think if there's anything that somebody might want it to be defined as a singular or specific thing, Sister Ida?
I wonder what, in terms of metaphysics, they expressed in terms of metaphysics. I wonder what that exactly means.
Brother Carrington, can you explain what is metaphysics?
Yes. So there are 4 branches of philosophy, which I know right now offered 2, metaphysics and ethics. Metaphysics is beyond. Meta means beyond, and physics, of course, the study of physical things, what we can see and interact with. Metaphysics, therefore, is the branch of philosophy that deals with the things beyond our physical universe. You can think of this as basic reality, the reality that we cannot access through physical means, on whose frame physical reality is constructed. This is roughly what metaphysics is.
Or, Sister Ida, if you can also check on the third screen I've shared, they say that metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that examines the basic structure of reality. It is often
Okay, it's not
characterized.
quite showing.
Okay, I'm reading it because I know you
Okay,
might
yeah.
see, but I think other people can see it. Where I have a side screen of the definition of
Okay,
metaphysics.
maybe I made it too large or something. Sorry.
Yeah. So it says
Okay.
that it is often characterized as first philosophy, implying that it is more fundamental than other forms of philosophical inquiry. Metaphysics is traditionally seen as the study of mind-independent futures of the world, but some modern theorists understand it as an inquiry into the conceptual schemes that underline human thoughts and experience. Brother Carrington, as a physicist, is that correct?
That's okay. Yeah, that's another way of putting it. Yes.
Thank you. Any other thing that might need any explanation? So there's this aspect where it talks about uh, uh, conceptual instruments, which is being referred here. I think we came across conceptual instruments some times back. Can you remember it, Brother Carrington? Or you are not there by then?
Conceptual instruments.
Yes.
They're just tools, analogies that one uses to think, essentially. The same way you need a compass to navigate or a map to navigate the physical world, you need these conceptual instruments to navigate the world of thought. Yes.
Was there things like constructionism, reductionism, and nominalism part of that?
Yes, philosophies, these are attempts at crystallizing these conceptual instruments, conceptual practices in specific branches, just like denominations of Christianity, something like that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody who still have any item that they need definition on? If there's nobody, then I'll ask Brother Carrington to start by sharing his thinking. Then other members will follow to share their thinking in that order. Let me read my list so that you be prepared. As he shares his thinking, also read the paragraph and try to form your thinking. So from Brother Carrington, we'll go to Sister Ida, then Sister Chisomo, then Brother Glero in that order. What we are sharing our thinking on is this reading that I've highlighted here. So as Brother Carrington will be taking time to share his thinking, can he slowly and silently try to read this paragraph, try to digest it and form up thinking around it so that you can share after Brother Carrington share in that order. So Brother Carrington?
Yes. Thank you very much, Brother Pigeon. So the way I understand these two passages, they're quite thick, they're quite heavy, is that we are still in the period of, I normally try to use history to understand the context. We're in the period of the pre-Socratic philosophers, Greek philosophers, the philosophers before Socrates, and they are forming their sort of thinking in a society that is slowly becoming wealthier because of its trade in the Mediterranean, trade with Egypt, trade with other Mediterranean cultures in the Middle East, etc. So Greece is slowly becoming wealthier and more exposed. So they're trying to look for principles of justice that are not pegged on the aristocracy, are not pegged on the theocracy, are not pegged on religion, right? They're trying to look for principles of justice and social behavior that are pegged almost closely on the ideas of general principles. They're trying to make their moral philosophy based as much as possible on general metaphysical principles. This is what they're trying to do. And this is the last sentence. And I'm sorry, my explanation is disorganized starting with the last sentence. The idea is to base your morality on the universe instead of on religion, which is seen in this culture at this specific time to be more plastic and more impermanent. So Thales has come with this idea of water and everything forming out of water, which we discussed in the previous weeks. And he has started to form some sort of, let's call it, primordial notion of equality, right? If we are all guarded or guided by some general principle, which has been read in the previous paragraph by Brother Pigeon, I think, then it means that we are all part of this one thing. And if we are all part of this one thing, then it means, by definition, we are all equal. and therefore you can form principles of justice on the basis of this egalitarianism. Now, the student, let's call him the student, Anaximander, and this should remind you Africans of the idea of transmitting knowledge to your children, or at least your village's children or your town's children, how important, how extremely important it is. Anaximander, realizing the limitations of the elder, Thales was basically a very, very wealthy merchant, functionally a part of the aristocracy he was trying to attack, tries to look for more general principles than water, than the thing that has given Thales his wealth. He completely abstracts this into some sort of boundless energy. And this is the second paragraph. The first paragraph notices the limitations, and now the second paragraph elaborates on Anaximander's solution. So he's trying to find something that is further removed from water, such that from this thing, even water comes from. So this is the big idea, and it's quite revolutionary in its time. Form this boundless energy of the universe. Those of you who watch Star Trek can call this the force. Those of you who have read some African traditional religions know that such a thing exists at least in West African cultures. And from this thing, everything is going to come and everything is going to go back to. I will remind you again of the Bible from Hebrew cultures, from soil you came, from soil you will return, right? So this formless thing from which everything comes from then mediates the principles of justice. To remind you, one, that you are impermanent and that you come from the same thing everyone, and not just everyone, everything else comes from. And therefore, the donkey, the blade of grass, the particle of soil deserves your respect as much as your fellow human being. Black, white, yellow is irrelevant. Okay? So this is the philosophy. If we come from one neutral, this is why it's called neutral. It is all of us and more combined. It is none of us. We are of it. It is not of us. So this was the idea that Anaximander was trying to push. And you can tell very clearly that he is actually leaning in very heavily on Thales' proposition of everything being associated with water. Both these people are trying to start from very simple metaphysical propositions that everything is either one thing or everything comes from one thing, to make deep-seated moral deductions. There are moral implications of saying that everything comes from one thing. And the moral implications of saying everything comes from one thing is that everything, at a very, very fundamental sense, philosophical, metaphysical sense, is equal. So that's how I understood the paragraphs.
Oh, that's heavy indeed. The understanding to me, I'll say, so deep. Let's get to Sisaida. Sisaida?
Wow. I wish I had such in-depth understanding. All I really got from the paragraph was that Anaximander, who was a student and then the successor of Thales, had felt that Thales's lifestyle maybe was too rich, and it didn't actually necessarily account for things that people not as rich were suffering. And so he felt there was a need to slightly change his teachings, in that it would make them a lot broader. and make them a lot broader so that the social structure could apply to all, not just maybe seeming to apply to the rich, is what I thought was being said. But in him trying to do that, it seemed like he was going against the teachings of Thales, who was his master, who had taught him all these things. So, but I think it was saying that at the end of their time, it was so broad that they could flow anywhere in any direction, and could just revert to, oh dear, where page? Have I lost my page? And could just revert to, sorry, I've lost my page. Anyway, I'll do it out of my head. And could just revert to being universal laws that weren't necessary part of the teaching, or just revert back to unstructured laws that was considered universal. I think that was half of what I got from it. I wish I'd got half as just a lot more. I mean, I really liked what Brother Carrington was saying, but I wasn't sure I'd seen all of that in the reading, but I could believe it. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Ida. Thank you. Thank you for your sharing your thinking. Let's go to Brother Joseph. Sister Chisoma said that she cannot be able to speak. Brother Joseph?
Can you tell me, and I can't see it. Can
What?
anybody? I don't know. I seem to have half a page now.
Okay, let me check. You are seeing what? Half a page?
I'm seeing half a page and then blank on the other side. I've done something wrong. Okay. I've got most of it if I make it smaller, but it's still not.
Okay. Try to work on it. Brother Joseph. Brother Joseph, are you able to Joseph and share something? Let me check.
Yes, Brother Bridget. Yeah, it's very deep. I agree with the previous caller, very deep. But you see, that's why it's so important that we link the previous session with the current session. What I think I gather here is that trust to bring to the light that which have been hidden in terms of understanding. Because whereas there have been an attempt to use various elements like water and nature and so on to sort of to champion the cause for unity and for equality and so on. To me, Anaximander was pushing the boundaries even further, notwithstanding that he was doing it within the confines of the same order or the same framework. To me, the same way in the case, and Brother Carrington might know about it, people who do sociology or economics might know about that, where Max Weber tried to, and he was supported by some of the reformists and the conservatives and so on, tried to counter what Karl Marx said about the basic structure of society, the workers and the owners or the capitalists. He was saying, no, there's more than that. He was saying, well, look, there is the capitalists, yes, there is the workers, and of course he talks about the bureaucrats, which kind of obscuring a bit, rather than sharpening the understanding of the main two contending class and basic European society. And I think it's something like that where there's always a student who tries to take it a little further, but you're not taking it outside of the box that you might say. But it's still also useful because although Thales was bourgeois, he was also progressive in that order, in that sense. So he helped to challenge the prevailing or thinking at the time. So I think these are some of the ways we need to understand. And finally, I heard one of those politicians, in terms of linking this to Africa, either it was Banjo or one of them was saying, we need to move away from the rule of thumb. I mean, capitalism being the rule of thumb, which really is not really a straightforward thing, you know. You need to move around and do something and get something that is more workable for people, the African people. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joseph. Let's go to Sister Nancy. Those who have joined us, we actually sharing our thinking on the highlighted paragraph. What are you trying to understand? What are you trying to get from this? What are you thinking about this text? That's what you're trying to share here. So, Sister Nancy? Sister Nancy? Okay. Sister Nancy seems to be close to speak. Elder Glero, you say we pass you for now? Okay. Sister Shireen? Sister Shireen, you would share thinking with us? On the highlighted paragraph, please let me know. Sister Nancy, you are unmuted. Are you able to speak?
Yes, I am able to speak. I apologize. I'm on my phone and I'm just having difficulty maneuvering. So I probably can't add anything more brilliant than has already been expressed. As I read this, I was just trying to understand, I guess, the significance of it, how it applies to us in our quest to liberate our homeland and our people. So I guess it just in a nutshell, what I got out of these couple of paragraphs was just an attempt philosophically to just indicate that the Earth, or the universe, I should say, originates from a substance that predated people, that predated humankind, and in itself is neutral, and in itself is eternal, but it also, I guess, the significance is that it kind of lays a foundation for philosophical thought, which insists that we view the universe from a materialist perspective, and it's not negating other ways of thinking, but I think it's looking at an explanation of existence and transformation and change from a rational and natural approach in understanding just the reality of the world. So it's kind of like a framework, a scientific framework from which to understand existence and change. So that's, and I would say, I think that was the appeal to Nkrumah, which, had to function within a context where people, of course, have a variety of philosophical beliefs informing behavior, and I think he was looking for something that did have this neutrality, and did have this scientific approach, not to negate other people's ideas or other ideas, but recognize the importance of viewing transformation and change and ideas and even an ideology on a scientifically based philosophy. So that's it. I can't add to what's already been said because I mean, everybody really explained it, I think, much more comprehensively and brilliantly than I can. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. If I check my list, probably, if there's anybody who still want to speak, I'm aware that Sister Chisomo might be speaking soon, past 8. if you are ready to speak, please come through. Yes, Elder Glenn, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, thanks to Brother Carrington, the way he put the issue across. I came later in the middle of it, but I was taken that if I had been here for the whole of it, perhaps I'd be able in a much better position to make a contribution. But thank you, Brother Carrington. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Glenn. Welcome, Brother Gonza. And if you still want to speak, feel free to speak. But I want to connect some dots here to further this discussion and to help us understand this better. So the first line of this first paragraph says that Thales' successor Anaximander reasoned, however, that the unity of nature could not by itself guarantee equality and impartiality. Now, that sentence alone, if you go back to the previous paragraph, we were trying to understand impartiality and equality. And if you look the paragraph before this previous paragraph, the paragraph right before, this is where we start with this point. Or there's somewhere, let me try to link it. There's somewhere where Thales is trying to bring in the unity of nature. And this is what Thales has brought all along on the unity of nature. I don't think if I can find it somewhere, but if you read this paragraph, there's this line in the previous paragraph here where Thales is talking about unity and justice. If you see this line compared to the first paragraph here, in this line, Thales is saying it was this idea of unity of nature as well as that of basic equality and justice, which required Thales to recognize those rules of thumb, pick up in marches. So see here, Thales was introducing the rules of thumb. And in that paragraph, when he was ending, it ends where Thales is saying that this last part, he said that when the rules become general, they guarantee an objective impartiality, and impartiality is the outward mark of egalitarianism. So you see now, Anaximander is here coming now to challenge beyond that. He says that unity of nature alone could not by itself guarantee that there can be equality and impartiality. Brother Carrington, what are you thinking about that? What can you share about that?
My thinking is that both are trying to implement a unity of nature model, but trying to implement it differently, with one being a modification of the other. They are making, in my opinion, exactly the same argument, because Anaximander is also doing a unity of nature thing, right?
Yes, I think by saying that, yeah, because it goes ahead that he's trying to, what Thales is saying here, that the unity of nature alone could provide or could assure equality and impartiality. Anaximander is going beyond that. He says that it's not that alone that could guarantee equality and impartiality. Now, what he brings in here is calling it that he called it the principle of justice. So Thales himself, of course, out of his class, Anaximander said that, thought that there was a need for active social principle, which would illuminate and sanction social structure. So in his thinking, and based on the class Thales was coming from, he felt that his thinking could not sanction the social structure. And that's why he comes in with what now is calling the principle of justice. And you see, justice is what you've been pushing all along. If you look at the previous paragraph just above that, it says that the rules which the Egyptian adipats used in marking out farms were bound to lead to injustice. And therefore, for an equality and impartiality to exist in a society, they must be guided by the principle of justice. This is what I'm trying to read here. Anybody who feel to come in and maybe share their thinking as well as we move along? Yes, Brother Joseph, and welcome, Brother Gonza.
Yeah, I think what we are encountering here is that struggle, that continuing effort to have consistency, to have predictability, to have fairness across the board. and to remove those vestiges of distinction of human beings and even nature, elements of nature, into putting hierarchy within them. And that's why when I mentioned Max Weber, whereas Marx was thinking more about moving toward a classless society, it seemed as though Weber was trying to argue, well, no. It's not really two classes, it's more than two classes. So it would not be possible to get away with it because we would have the bureaucrats and so. I think it's something similar, and I always really pleased when I hear Brother Carrington, when he said they were doing the same, they were making the same argument, but maybe from a different vantage point. And we do that. I mean, many of us who are Pan-Africanists, but we come to the table from different vantage points. We all want the same thing, but we are influenced by our conditioning, either by our class or where we live, whether we live on the continent or outside the continent. But what we must see that the goal is still the same: is we want harmony, we want liberation, we want development, and all of that for all our people. So we must remember in everything we see how that helps us to better understand and take us closer to that ultimate dream. The other thing about it is that I think it was a movement away from idealism to materialism, meaning that you base reality right here and not somewhere in outer space or so, in which you set rules arbitrarily based on what you say the divine wants or those diviners wants and so on. But you do what we want or not, human beings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Joseph. Just as we continue a bit to share our thinking, and I'd like people to come in and share the thinking. So Anaximander is introducing what he calls social principle, which he says that will illuminate and sanction social structure. Yes, Sister Ida?
Please, could you put the page up a bit? Okay.
Okay. Is that okay?
No, right to the end where it stops. Okay, thank you. I've got it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was saying that Anaximander is introducing something called social principle, which illuminate and sanction social structure. And this social principle is calling it the principle of justice. And this principle of justice, he says that it regulates two things. It regulates social organization and the metaphysical generation of things. Who can share their thinking in regards to that context or that text alone?
Can I say something, please? Which is that I think that something at the end, the early, where it ends, the early Greek philosophers had a social-moral preoccupation, which they expressed in terms of metaphysics. It is this social-moral preoccupation which made them continual sufferers of political persecution. I think that there's something in this sentence that we're also missing, in that it also had said that though Anaximander seemed to be his views seem to have differed from Thales, in the end they were almost the same. And I think this last sentence, I think we should look at that, because I think there's something there that maybe we're slightly missing.
Okay.
Because even though things change, it seems like politically they don't change, in that there's always persecution. But I think the persecution means that there's class differences.
Oh, okay.
Political persecution.
What did you say metaphysics is?
He said it. He said that meta was it past?
As physics. As physical, or what cannot be conceived in physical reality. Is that what was said? If I can remember? Brother Carrington.
So yes, metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that tries to understand things beyond physical reality. Yes. And
Now,
So
Can
the
that
reason,
be, wait, Brother Carrington,
sorry, yes.
can that be perceived like being more of idealist?
That's a very good question. Not necessarily, because the claim that anything comes from water, everything comes from water, is a metaphysical claim. But water is a material substance. And also the material that Anaximander is talking about is thought to be material in nature. It is a thing. So I would say that metaphysical claims can also be materialist, although you are right, they could be easily idealist also. So metaphysics deals with both. Yeah.
Okay, before I bring Sister Chisomo in, the reason why I was reading the previous paragraph, when Anaximander is introducing what he called active social principle. And this active social principle is calling it the principle of justice. And to him, he feels that the principle of justice must combine two systems. It must regulate social organization and metaphysical generation of things, which is either something he's feeling was missing from the Thales water perspective alone.
Yes. So my understanding of this is simple. When, for example, and maybe wrong because it is simple, by the way, splash a big stone on a pond of water, a huge amount of water will go up, and then eventually it will come down and splash on the pond, and after some while, the pond will just settle back into its regular form. Even if you drop a small pebble, a small splash will be made, and after a while also the pond will just settle back into its regular form. This is the story Anaximander is trying to talk about when talking about the restlessness of this boundless form creating new things. And over time, these new things have their time in the world and they go back, they pass their energy into other things and go back into this boundless form. And therefore, from this metaphysical regulation, there can be social regulation in following the tradition of these philosophers, basing morality on metaphysics. That's how I understand it. That even if you are a dictator and you want to make a big splash on Africa, you will also join the same soil that the people you have killed have joined eventually. The society will regulate itself. Yes.
Thank you. I want to
Lovely.
to share their thinking as well. It's open. We want to just put thinking into this. So let's just understand the context. Let's first of all understand the text. Then we can be able now to form formidable, maybe a application of it. And I really like what is coming out of this. So yes, Sister Chisomo.
All right. Yeah, people have spoken and spoken. All I've done is pick up words that I'm picking up: nature, universe, religion, justice, material things, creating new things, social regulation, and morality. And again, like the sister who spoke earlier, it relates to what's going on in Africa, in politics and whatever else. And all these things, depending on your understanding and your whatever, you believe in one or two or nothing. So if somebody believes in nature, they make the arguments that way. If they believe in the universe, they'll also have a different, whether you're using religion, justice. So then you have a conflict because of the different ways of thinking and dealing with things. Some will use religion to justify what they're doing or explain what they're doing, explain away. Again, I keep using my own country because things are changing so fast. Things have changed recently and some are angry, some are happy. So people will use religion. For example, the Bible says, the verse says, then you find people who don't believe in religion or are not Christians, they have a different argument. You often hear people mention the universe. That one I've never quite understood what that means, but because they don't want to say God or they don't want to say whatever, they say the universe. That's my understanding. And I think there was another mention about African religion. Did you say African religion, brother? African religion that some people know and some don't. They will use that to explain away things or regulate things or socially regulate things. So you then get all these conflicts, which we are now experiencing recently, because people are using different forms of arguments to explain that one thing. And it's causing mayhem. And things like politics, like governance, have laws which becomes justice. The arguments using justice, there are laws laid down either for party politics, either for governing the country, which is the constitution. Everything kind of has a constitution, and then the bylaws and the acts and all these things. But you find that because people don't understand those things, or they don't even know they exist, or they don't know their rights and responsibility, those who feel the higher power is the universe, is the religion, they use the religion. No, but you can't do that because the Bible says blah, 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 blah. And then these all but political people, I heard somebody saying, oh, that's why they say parties belong to a family. Whoever set it up, it belongs to them. So this party, you can't start bringing in people. Nobody can take position. It has to be the widow who takes over the party. So it's those kind of conflicts. And then you think to yourself, why are people avoiding the structures, the processes, the procedures? Because they believe religion is higher than those things. They are more powerful than those. Or the universe is more powerful, or the ancestors are more powerful. And they don't know where it's all going to end, where the arguments are all going to end. But in the process, destruction, destruction, destruction. No solutions.
Thank you, Sister Chifon. As we are speaking, I decided to check a bit on this aspect of principle of justice, because it still have to be expanded a bit. And Anaximander come up with what he calls social principle, and he makes it to be the principle of justice. And it says that has to regulate social organization and metaphysical generation of things. So I'm going to look at the principle of justice. And it said here the principle of justice is a complex ethical principle that has been widely accepted since it was first defined by Aristotle more than 2,000 years ago. Justice is concerned with the equitable distribution of benefit and burden to individuals in a social institution, and how the rights of various individuals are realized. There are different theories of justice, but most people agree on theory that justice requires three things: the principle of fairness, principle of proportionality, and principle of mercy. Justice is the concept that individuals are to be treated in a manner that is equitable and fair. So here I'm seeing Anaximander bringing principle of justice, and the paragraph before we are looking at something like fairness, which is more of equality, impartiality, and equality through what is coming out to be called the general rules, which was actually to be seen as different from the rule of thumb that was introducing injustice. So basically, in that light, what do you say about the principle of justice? Is this something that can be guiding, or what is your take on that? I really want to look on that as because we are looking at philosophy and society. Should the society run on principle of justice? And should that principle of justice, as he's saying here, has to be divided or regulated by social organization and metaphysical generation of things? Brother Joseph.
Yeah, in Isaiah 58, the prophet Jeremiah, rebuking the folks with power, said, this is what the Lord wants. He wants you to not go through all this fasting and so on, and while you have people enslaved and so on. He said, pay the workers properly, take off the chain of oppression and so on. So even in scripture, there is that cry for justice, for equality and all that stuff. So I think it's a persistent cry of human being wherever human beings find themselves. Because unfortunately, as human beings, we create institutions or structures that sometimes, a lot of time with the intention of helping us. You know, I come from a school that says that women were the first organizers of society, and it evolved to the point that we end up with the patriarchy. Not everybody agree with that, because if you don't have the knowledge, then you would not have that view. But essentially, forms of organization have come about to fulfill certain needs of people wherever they find themselves. And over time, some of these same structures become redundant. And I think that is why it's playing out here, as it played out in other situations. Basically, it's a cry for change, a cry for something different, a cry for something much more visible. You know, you can see where it's coming from. Not to have the rule of the term, this man, decided and so on, because you measure his foot and something like that, as with the king's measurement by the king's foot. I mean, so these are some of the things it's important that people have deeper understanding of some of the things that continue to influence us. I think that's why session like this is so helpful. I'll stop here now.
Thank you. I've gone back a bit. Feel free to members. Welcome, Brother Gonza and Brother Sin or Sean. Very most welcome. I've gone back a bit to look at what you look in the past, where it was said that revolution has two aspects. Revolution is a revolution against an old order and is also a contest for a new order. Can this development between Anaximander and Thales be viewed as either Anaximander going against the old order or is trying to contest to create a new order out of the old order that was started by Thales? What's your say as you build up on this? Brother Carrington, what do you say about that? How do you see it first?
Sorry, I'd gone to pick up something. Repeat.
Now, I was asking previously, we came across when it was said that the revolution has two aspects. One, it is a contest against the old order, and it's also a contest for a new order. So it's a revolution against the old order, and it's also a contest for a new order. Based on what Anaximander is trying to present here, in reference to what Thales has been presenting, can it be viewed as a contest for a new order, or what can it be viewed against, from your thinking?
So a new order in opposition to Anaximander or in extension?
When you say it's a contest for a new order, or it's a revolution against old order, from Anaximander extension, does it appear like it's refuting the old order or is trying to create a new order out of old?
It's doing both. It's doing both. It's trying to first replace. Remember, there is this problem of the theocratic class defining morality on metaphysical principles, but idealist metaphysical principles of the deity, right? And both these philosophers are fighting against that by basing morality on, we can call this quote unquote, materialist metaphysical principles. And therefore, my understanding is that they're revolting on sorry, it's my WhatsApp. They're revolting on the old order. If you define the old order as the theocratic order, not Thales' understanding. Yes.
Thank you. Members of Jonas, anybody feel free to share your thinking. We are still discussing this paragraph. We want to take time to discuss it in depth.
Can I come in on that? Because it says Anaximander seems to have divulged widely from Thales, his master and friend. He, in fact, only tried to secure similar social objectives by means of conceptual instruments, not too different from those of Thales. So it sounds like it was all the same, but he had but he tried to do it via different concepts. Oh, it says conceptual instruments, but by different concepts. But it would have been the same. It was just he used maybe different examples. I mean, I love that example of the water and how things spread. But, you know, I think in this it says that though he seemed to be saying something different, it was really the same, but he used different examples.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's where I'm coming in a bit, because I want to know what is Anaximander basing his argument on. If you look at Thales, Thales has been talking about what we call, he's been calling it the water. But here Anaximander is coming with what we call a neutral material. And he's describing this neutral material as something in which nothing was differentiated, a boundless, featureless, eternal expanse, whose restlessness separated out the things of this world. These things abide in the world of time, measured out according to principle of justice. What can this be? For example, in Thales, it was water. What can be this, what Anaximander is trying to base now, is counter argument as a neutral material? Brother Carrington, I see your hand is up.
Yes, he is trying to generalize on the principles of water. Remember the way, I'm sure maybe Anaximander as a child, now I'm speculating, saw water fitting into any shape of container, fluid, can create any shape. And he's trying to think, because intelligent philosopher, he's trying to think about something abstract that could carry out the functions of water, but not just create water-related things, ice, whatever, steam, etc. So he's trying to just abstract on Thales' philosophy. That is what he's trying to do. This thing that he's talking about, philosophically trained people in the room, please correct me if I'm wrong, will end up being known as ether. If some of you have heard of ether, later on by Aristotle and other later on Greek philosophers and scientists. This thing that he is trying to construct, I think, will serve a very serious function in philosophy for a few thousand years. Yeah, that's why it's important. Yeah.
Thank you. Brother Gonza, welcome. Are you able to share something out of the discussion that has been going on and out of the text that I've highlighted?
Not now. I'm just listening in.
Okay, thank you. Brother Sean. Brother Sean is running our Twitter account. He's been posting our classes, our updates, our recordings, and everything else we do. The links are always posted on Twitter. I'm also posting them on our Facebook page. So you can also always get access to our things on the Twitter. He can tell you more about that. I think he can put it on the chat, the Twitter handle, or something like that. Brother Sean, are you able to share something with us? I know you are almost... Is it morning on your side?
Yes, it is morning time. I'll just listen in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Sister Nancy, do you want to come in again? Share anything in regards to how the conversation is developing? Sister Nancy? Okay. Brother Glenn, are you able to grasp something that you might maybe share with us? Brother Glenroy? Can you weigh into the conversation? Sister Nancy, go first.
Yes, okay. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but again, I think it's really important for us to go back to the point you made earlier about the fact that we're trying to get rid of an old order and create a new one. And I think that, again, significance of this is laying a philosophical framework through which we determine what our principles will be and also how to engage with one another without alienating people. And the point that was made about the fact that, you know, we have different beliefs, we have different religions, maybe no religion at all, whatever, that these things can't be allowed to divide us, that we have to look for some basis of unity. And I think, I mean, when I read this, I guess I was just looking at something that was elemental and foundational, as an example of forming a, something that we can all agree on, and something, an example on which we can build a set of principles. So, even if you look at religions, we, understand that most major religions share principles, a lot of principles in common, even if they have a different name for the religion and a different understanding of deity or whatever. But they all are looking for justice and things of this nature. So our challenge is to build a new society based on these principles that we share in common, and these things we share in common, and to avoid or get rid of those things that divide us, to not include that in how we structure our society or how we relate to one another.
Thank you, Sister Nancy. Yeah, I'd like
Thank
to
you.
touch on this last sentence, then allow members to come in again to share their thinking. And this time now, we have maybe to do the practical application of this concept. Having dealt with it almost from each sentence, we want to look at the practical side. How do we apply it in our practical situation in our continent? How do we see it play out in our current situation? And how do we think of how we can advance it forward? But let me ask our thinking in the last sentence. Of course, I know it was highlighted and that's been highlighted before, but permit me to look at it. This last sentence says that the early Greek philosopher had a social moral preoccupation, which they express in terms of metaphysics. I know it has been mentioned. But look at the last part of that sentence, which says that it was this social moral preoccupation which made them continual sufferers of political persecution. What does that mean? Brother Carrington, are you able to maybe start by sharing your thinking in this? Why did that social moral preoccupation made them suffer from political persecution?
So I will have to hypothesize here, but we need to go, maybe you can Google quickly, Brother Pigeon, about the specific forms of historical persecution that they went through, because I don't know. But the idea is we have to remember what they're challenging. They are challenging a theocratic order. A theocratic order on whose moral order is based on the Greek gods. And you have to remember the Greek gods have certain natural functions and certain natural inequalities. The great Greek god is Jupiter, the father of the gods, and then there are weaker gods as you go along. And generally, the male gods are stronger than the female gods, right? So all this stuff is what these philosophers are undermining. And not only are they undermining these metaphysical claims as to the existence of these gods, they are also undermining the social order on which these metaphysical claims are constructed. They are undermining the cult that Kwame Nkrumah talked about a few passages ago, this theocratic, aristocratic cult. And therefore, it means because they are undermining these people, they must face a political challenge, because it is fundamentally a game of power, right? So all revolutions must meet their resistance. Otherwise, they are not revolutions by definition.
Okay, so are you talking about this paragraph highlighted here, where was, because Thales has two forms of revolution. The first revolution, therefore, was to knock the bottom out of the theocratic, crypto-theocratic manifestation of Greek society.
Yes, destroying the gods as explanatory devices. That is very important. He neutralized them and undermined the social effectiveness of the aristocratic priesthood. So those are serious political implications. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask Brother Carrington to explain one of his last sentences, which was, all revolutions must meet something something, or they're not revolutions. What was they mean?
Yeah, sorry. Revolutions, by their definition, Brother Pigeon can go do a quick one for me there, a definition of revolution. But revolutions are undermining the mental model with which societies used to organize themselves. Right? So a forcible, it doesn't have to be forcible, overthrow of a government or social order in favor of a new system. So by this definition, there are people who are going to be thrown out. In the case of the Greeks, it was threatening the theocratic aristocratic class, which were the most powerful class. In the Industrial Revolution in the UK, it threatened who? It threatened the aristocratic class and the priestly class, who are separate but sort of equal in stature before the Industrial Revolution and the Mercantile Revolution. Similar revolutions in Africa have undermined social order throughout, right? The revolution that gained us at least partially our political independence, undermined a certain social order that the white man was at the top, and then the African and the Indian, and then the African, for example, in Kenya. This social order was totally undermined, although vestiges of it remain. So if revolutions do not meet a resistance from the people in power, they are what can I call them? They are advertised revolutions. They are not real. They are not real. They need to meet that resistance because they are undermining. The effect is to undermine a very long established social order, because
Brother
they
Carrington,
also undermine the metaphysics of the social order.
Brother Carrington, just from your
Yes.
explanation is what you had covered here, that the revolution in its definition is revolting against old order and is a contest for a new order.
Yes.
So this clearly tell you, as you revolt against old order, it's not peaceful revolution. And you see, in materialism, you're talking of dialectics. And it's
Yes.
all about competition of forces moving, negative and positive ions moving up and down. So in revolution, it's actually as it is. It's revolting against an old order. And it's also, apart from revolting against the old order, like now in Kenya, for example, in this protest in the street, we are revolting against either the old order or the system of the government and President Ruto. But even in that, the contest for a new order is part of a revolution, which is
Yes.
the face of
Exactly.
a revolution, which most of people don't recognize. But trying to tie to what you're talking about religion and the Greek society, when you say that they were having social moral metaphysics, is here.
Yeah.
You see the paragraph I've highlighted here to members of the class. It says that Thales was able peacefully to spearhead this intellectual revolution, which was itself a reflection of a social revolution, because the Greek priesthood did not in its strictest sense form a class. The Greeks, mindful of the massive constricting power which the priesthood could assert if it formed a class, shunned the Oriental example, discouraging life priesthood and often fixed the length of time to the priesthood. So here, we realize that the priests assumed a higher power, hierarchical power. They were more of a higher class, even beyond the political class. And even in Africa, there's still some level of priesthood taking on some form of power. And therefore, most of the people, like you see, for example, in Kenya, just to use the same example, you're still guided that the current government was the offing of God, and the churches actually referred it as the holy leadership. So in the aspect where sometimes the religion will tell you that respect the leadership because the leadership was brought by God and it's a divine leadership on us, then when you accept such concept, you become actually sufferers or persecutors of the same thinking. So politically, you cannot do anything because whoever is in power, you believe is brought by God. But when you try to move out of that, is when now you're trying to walk away from that aspect of continual political suffering based on a hierarchical metaphysical aspect. Because in metaphysical aspect is that we assumed in some level, if you look at ideological aspect, that the priests were actually sent or angels or messengers of some divine power, either God or anything else. And therefore, their divinity and their divine power could not be challenged by anybody else. In that aspect, you then become servants or slaves of their directives because you believe that somebody or some metaphysical power somewhere is speaking to them. But the moment you try to overcome that and change it, then you try to free yourself from that aspect. The moment you stop saying that Zimbabwe is where it is because it's God that has decided, Africa is where it is because it's God's time, if you are still in that thinking, then you become a sufferer of such political persecution. That's what I'm thinking. But let me allow more members to come in and share their thinking. We've been having this conversation we are left with around 20 minutes. And I will wish that start sharing our thinking at this particular moment as we still go along and try to link them to the practical aspect of what's going around. Brother Joseph?
Yes, Brother Pigeon. To continue, in the social field, it is said that society is a combination of what is called institutions and so on, which has their own rules and norms and practices and all that things, sanction and all that sort of thing. And over time, these things outgrow their usefulness, and eventually new systems come. Because once you have life, it's like a plant. Even if you cut it and it gets rain, it will grow again. So similarly with us human beings, we all find a way to really continue in life. And as such, I think when you consider what is happening in Africa now, African people, we have finally seemed to be waking up from the sleep that told us that, okay, things are divine and one has to be hewers of wood and carriers of water and that kind of thing. So knowing that we are shapers of our own life, and we could either resign ourselves to what has been prescribed for us, or decide to write our own prescription, really collectively, and then take things further. But it's very dynamic, and the important thing is for us to understand that even the system that human beings create come to an end at one point. And we have seen it in apartheid to some extent, where at one time nobody thought that apartheid in the form it had would have been extinct. But we also see that in as much as it was partially dismantled, it has not totally gone away, and it's returning right now at this very moment in South Africa. The whites are getting back their real power. They already have economics. They're now regaining political power. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day we get up and all the same rules that they had during apartheid is sort of returned. Because some of our people went to sleep, okay? And also let those folks influence us. That's why the key is to move far away from the old order so that we could create the new. Different belief systems advance. Some talk about heaven, nirvana, all kinds of stuff, moksha, all kinds of things, paradise. I'm not advocating that here. I'm just saying that there needs to be some vision in the kind of society, the kind of world, the kind of reality that we want, other than what we have there. And we cannot continue thinking that we can get anything good out of it, except what we make as we dislodge it. Thanks.
Thank you. So you're bringing a contest of, you are revolting against the old by creating a contest for the new. Thank you, Brother Joseph. Yes, I'll be going around to all members. So when I get to you, feel free to share your thinking on the paragraphs you're having, or give your summary as you're taking the last round of us sharing our thinking, then we will be ending the class. So I'll be going around. If I call you, if you have something, please share. If you have to give your general or last thinking, let's do that. What we need here is your thinking. How do you think? Sister Ida? Then I'll go from Sister Ida, I'll go to, let me check my list so that to be prepared. I'll go to Sister Ida, and then from Sister Ida, I'll go to Brother the King Maoli. Sister Nancy, do you want to speak? Sister Nancy?
No, I'm sorry. I did not.
Okay, thank you. So, Sister Ida, what is your either last thinking, or what do you want to share? Either you want to link it to practical application or anything you want to share in regards to this paragraph.
Two people, okay. There are two people in the waiting room. Maybe you could deal with them while I think of what I've got to say.
Yeah,
Three people. Oh my goodness, they're all coming in. I think this has been a paragraph and a paragraph. In that there have been so many things that have come out of it. I like. There are two things I really like about what I've heard today. I like the thought of clarifying revolution. What is a revolution? I like that thought, and I love the thought of that change happens. The stone and water, change happens, but eventually it goes back to being calm and sort of normal. So I think that this paragraph we've read today says that though Thales had was a starter of something, his successor then changed it slightly, but eventually all the change that he did was just a different way of explaining what Thales had said or was saying, but in a different form. I think that's what I've got out of today.
Thank you,
So,
sister.
thank you.
Thank you, Sister Ada. Sister Chisomo?
Yeah, as I said earlier, it's just different ways of explaining something. And somebody mentioned undermining the different models and justifying your own. And then in the process of challenging, new things come up that people start considering. But my way of thinking is always, what does the law say? What does the justice say? I'm looking at the justice and fairness of it. But applying it, again, becomes a challenge, whatever the law says about that particular thing. And then, again, new things come up, new ideas come up, and fairness in the way things were drafted. We've seen the Kenya situation. We've seen, because of the way things were drafted, although it meant to be the law, but it became injustice. And it's been challenged, and those are the consequences. So new things evolving, and other models and other ideologies develop from it. So it keeps shifting.
Yes, Sister Chisomo? Actually, I'll say we are building up. It's not more of like giving a shift, but it's more of moving towards some common clarity and some common understanding. But of course, that clarity has to come from diversity. And as you move together, you are either coming to convergence, but based on analyzing. And this is what I think Brother Kwame Nkrumah has tried to do in most of this book. He has been coming from the aspect of trying to analyze the two opposing aspects and then move towards a common goal, whereby if you arrive at a common convergence, you actually can trace where you came from your divergence towards convergence. And that's very important so that you look at all sides of the thinkings so that you see how the things flows. But at the end of the day, Nkrumah will still come in his last paragraph, I think a paragraph after this, where he's now giving his perspective and his thinking in regards to these two opposing sides. As you can see, Nkrumah is still trying to bring forth the thinking of Thales and the thinking of Anaximander. Then he will be coming in to share his thinking, what he thinks like is the convergence and the way forward out of this diversity. And that's what we will be looking at in the next paragraph, in the next class. Let me get to, yes, Brother Gonza, we are in the last rounds of the class. Are you able to share something with us, or you're thinking, or you'll just listen to this class today?
Yeah, so I was just very much interested in your explanation, which I agree very much with when it comes to the revolution. what it means is basically interrupting of the old order. Actually, when I look at Kenya, I think that the people overthrew the government. Many people have not realized this, but in Kenya, the people were able to overthrow the government. But maybe I was discussing this with some comrades yesterday, and what we saw that maybe what is missing is a new leadership, but the pressure was enough to overthrow the government, with the power of the people. So it's basically bringing a new system order, which is, in some way the opposite of what has been there, or is far different from what has been there. So while, there may be an overthrowing of a government, for example, in Kenya, the question is, will the people be able to achieve, a different government, a different governance system, which is, different from what is existing? Like, for example, I saw Raila Odinga saying that, they should negotiate and talk for the case of, for the good of Kenya, not for the good of Ruto. So you can see that he has an interest in maintaining the existing system, as a person. But when you go to Niger and Mali, you see that it is the opposite. The government which was there is the opposite of what is there right now. That this is controlled completely by different people compared to, the previous one, which was controlled from outside. Yeah, so this is what I think is the desired, is mostly the desired revolutionary event that Nkrumah is talking about, as in his book is analyzing to look at the imperialist system, the neo-colonial system, the colonial system, and then, the much desired government of the people, especially by the African people. Yeah, so I think that if we are looking for a revolution, then we have to understand that that is how, it's supposed to be. And of course, somebody spoke about the law. So when it comes to the law in the existing system, well, even in the neo-colonial system, because you have to remember that even in the colonial era, even the apartheid era, all those were laws. Those guys had laws, but it is very difficult to operate within those laws if you are looking for a revolution. Even when you talk of the civil rights movement in the United States, you can see that Dr. King was arrested a couple of times on charges of breaking the law. So it is very difficult for you to say that you want a revolution and operate within the limits of the law. Most of the revolutionaries, they don't really operate in the limits of the law, but rather they stretch the law, to its limits. And in most cases, it is called breaking the law. If you look at all of them, even Mandela and all these guys, they were arrested, because they said that they were breaking the law. Even Nkrumah himself was arrested. They say he was breaking the law. Whether it is Lumumba, all of them who, who tried to change the system the way it was. Thank you.
Thank you. You've reminded me, that's why I've gone back to where we came across something called a revolutionary as opposed to reformist. And you see, most of people tend to reform the system. As a reformist has been described here as a nation of clerical influence called not for amelioration here and there of social inequalities, the smoothing of this sharp corner and the trimming of that eminence, but for a total rejection of idea of social inequality. So probably from a revolutionary angle is a total rejection of a system, not smoothing. So what Badagonza is saying is people trying to smooth this edge, try to make this corner sharp, but everything are trying to fix here and there. And that's a reformist thinking. It's not a revolutionary thinking. A revolutionary thinking, as has been said here, is about fighting the old and a contest for the new. That's our sympathy. So thank you, Brother Gonza, for that. Let me get to Elder Glenn. This is the last part, of this. Are you able to maybe give your general observation or general thinking on this?
Just the point that when we do these analysis, it's interesting to know what has been carried over from the old into the new, because sometimes some process and some behavior are, I don't want to say unavoidable, but sometimes not noticed. So when we do the analysis of what is it that we're getting into, what is it that we're bringing with us, what is it that behavior that is carried over into the new, which will be problematic, so we never get rid of completely the effect or attitude of previous administration. So I was looking for that. I think that's a discussion point that need to be had. And when we talk about current situation in the globe rather than not just Kenya, I think that's something that ought to be on our mind. What is it that we are dragging with us?
Yeah.
So that's really want to leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Comment, can I say something on that?
Yes?
Is that something which I can respond to? Can I respond to that?
But I'm afraid you're only having 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and I want to go through everybody.
Okay. All right.
But we can create time for it. But it's reminding me, I've gone back to a paragraph read before that I want to read very fast, that the revolution must be interaction between the alteration of social circumstances, something I've highlighted here in color green, I think, social circumstances and the content of consciousness. It's not on one-sided. For circumstances can be changed by revolution, and revolutions are brought by men who think as men and act as men of thought. It is true that revolutionaries are produced by historical circumstances. At the same time, they are not chaff before the wind of change, but have a solid ideological basis. So there's their clear need for what you call a solid ideological basis. As we transition between the old and the contest for the new, what is the solid ideological basis, which should be the foundation of every revolution? Let me get to Sister Nancy, last parting shot, or have you spoken? If not, I'll go to Sister Nancy. Do you have something to say as we end? Okay, let's get to, let me get to Brother Joseph. Have you said your last part?
No, I think this session should indicate to us, and in this respect, I do agree with Brother Glenroy, knowing what we bring forth in the new dispensation. And I think if the South Africans understood that, the ANC in particular, South Africa wouldn't find itself in a position to. Land without compensation must be one of the things that is championed in South Africa. Thanks.
Thank you. Let me get to Brother Steen. Are you having any? Sean, Brother Sean, please. Okay. Brother Sean, hope you're not asleep. Anything you can say? I think you rarely attend our classes, but you may need to have time because it's very late where you are. Okay, let's get to Brother Coco. It's late. Maybe in a minute. What can you say?
I missed a lot, so I don't have a lot to say, but it's important to know where we are going or where we are coming from, what we are taking with us and what we are leaving behind. So unfortunately, Africa was bequeathed with the colonial systems, which we've just been running around with. It's a matter of actually looking what is African or what is beneficial for Africans and picking only what is useful. That is how our revolution will have to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Brother Pulani, Mzumalo. I know it's your first time.
Sure. No, hi. Thank you. And yeah, it sounded quite interesting as much as I came in late like Coco. And I think obviously I've only heard this bit about Thales, and I think some very interesting things about how we must know why we are trying to get a revolution, and we would like every person on the planet, in our societies rather, to actually have access to particular means of self-enabling. And self-enabling requires you to also engage the community and the reality of what is on the ground and what is possible, and therefore what education to have. So I hear the brother who's also saying that we should be getting land as a primary thing. I think the challenge is that it's not that the people don't have land, they don't have themselves anymore. This is what the shock of the past system has done, when people live really on alcohol and on. So how do you actually now mobilize the people? I'm watching and listening to even the other gentleman speaking about how it took place in Kenya and how actually the government's been overthrown, but because there is no officializing some process of saying, okay, how do we decentralize, making sure that communities now have systems for what would make an economy of first survival, even before thinking about a range of things. Yeah, so that it got me thinking about obviously that convergence that Kwame was engaging on. Thanks.
Thank you, comrade. Get in touch with me with the number you found on the WhatsApp so that I can add you to our mail list or broadcast list so that you can get consistent update when the class starts and when it stops. Oh, Brother Anjola, it's only now, we are only having almost 1 minute to. So I'll give you maybe just...
I would like to pass. I'll pass here for the next class. Thank
Brother
you.
King Mauli? The King? Okay. Last Paulo? A minute or 30 seconds. Yeah, we're almost ending.
Brother Pigeon, while you try to get another person, let me just use the opportunity to appeal to Sister Nancy. I really want to get in touch with her because we would like to have her on our session Sunday to give our U.S. perspective. I mean, the perspective from the U.S. in terms of the heat. We're talking about climate crisis and about global planetary. Please.
Yeah, Sister Nancy, I think Sister Nancy will get in touch with you. Or I'll get you probably through our permission. I'll get your contact so that you can get in touch. But we'll discuss that. I know you had waited for this opportunity, actually. I know she'll get in touch with you.
Well, we only have until Sunday is the time, so we really want a perspective from the U.S.
Okay. Sister Nancy, hope that is copied. Sister Pamela? I know you came late. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to pass and next time because I came in very late. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
General Anwak, Raspala.
Yeah, my brother says the same sentiment with me. I don't know what to say. Very late.
So next time come early so that you can know what to say.
Yes, my lord, man. I was in another meeting, man. I'm sorry.
Sorry for that. No problem. But no problem. So I think I'm done with my list and we are exactly on top of 10, which is exactly 9. So unless there's somebody who wants to say something burning in a minute or 30 seconds, I'm ending it here exactly 9. We have not been able to have Brother Kwame with us, but I know you'll be joining us next time. And I'll also be sharing, today I'll be sharing tomorrow, or even today, because the recording for the previous class, last week class is already on our YouTube channel. I'll be able to share it so that you can have time to watch it. And I'll have this recording available by Monday or Tuesday, the recording for this class, so that you can also have some time to go through in case you missed something, especially most of us who come late. You can be able to go back and always reference on that or refer on that. Sister Ida?
Oh, no, I was just getting ready to say goodbye when you finish. That's all.
Okay, so on Saturday, we'll be having the part 2 of Readiness for Change. You remember Brother Mafole, it's Elder Mafole, who gave us the aspect for Readiness for Change. It's a program that is running, and those who are interested should be registering or share with me their interests for the program so that I can link you with Brother Mafole. It's actually giving us the mental preparation for liberation or unification of Africa. because also take a lot of mental strength in order for us to realize what's going on, in order for us to heal and have a direct way on how we can move forward. So as a basis, let's look forward to Saturday where we can have Ndadema Foley doing his presentation. Next Thursday we will continue this. As I've said, Brother Kwame Nkrumah is now converging in the next paragraph where he's giving us now his point and what he wants to give. However, so this is his thinking now coming in after all the divergence that is up here. So we'll be moving towards convergence and get what is Nkrumah saying out of that process. It will be an interesting class, and let me hope we'll join each other and meet each other or meet again come next Thursday. Without much ado and without taking much of your time, thank you for your time today.
Brother Pigeon, in terms of the course with Brother McFarley, I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly. Would it be a virtual course or you have to be in person? This is something I've been pondering on because he says about 3 days. The course is about 3 days.
Okay. Brother Coco, yes. Brother Coco, just very fast. Brother Coco, can you respond to that? Okay, if Brother Coco cannot be able to respond to that, I'll give you the contact of Ndadema Foley so that you can inquire more about that. So, is that okay, Brother Joseph?
Yeah, no problem, because that
okay.
I think it needs to be clarified.
Okay, so with that being said, then thank you very much. Let's meet let's meet Saturday, and next week Thursday we'll continue that class. Thank you for your time.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.